as you know, the BRI has captured the imagination of the Chinese people, has galvanized the ambition of Chinese enterprises, and enthused, to a large extent, the neighboring countries along the Belt and Road. But some observers believe that the BRI initiative is simply China's attempt at creating a Chinese economy outside of China, and perhaps nations might become beholden. Now, it's understandable that some countries may be somewhat unsettled by this, but it's also an opportunity for us to take advantage of the dynamo of our times. So there are many businessmen here in our audience here tonight. What would you say that Singapore businesses could potentially take advantage of this? And I also add, in the same light, how can China do to maybe soothe the unease of nations?
Well, first of all, I'd say we think it is a good thing. It's a good thing because China's influence is growing. China's links with other countries in the region, but actually in the whole world, are increasing. And the Belt and Road is a way in which China can grow its links in the world and also grow its influence in the world, but in a constructive sort of way. Mm-hmm. The influence is growing. It will have to be accommodated in the global system. The question is how, and whether this will be a stable, smooth adjustment or a troubled and destabilizing one. And I think the Belt and Road Initiative is a way to do it in a stable, smooth way. Win-win, linking up with the countries around the region with infrastructure projects, with connectivity, with financial linkages, with people linkages, and in a way which enables the region to benefit from China's prosperity, but at the same time to maintain the region's links with the rest of the world, and indeed with Europe, with America, or for that matter, Africa and Australia. So I think, first of all, it's a good thing. Secondly, how does Singapore benefit? Well, if you listen to DPM Teo Chee Hean's speech yesterday, he gave a comprehensive explanation, whether it's through infrastructure projects in the region, which we can help to do, or through financing of projects in the region, where Singapore is a natural place, or people-to-people linkages, where we can have officials visit one another, tourists visit one another, businessmen going back and forth. There are many opportunities for Singapore which are natural. Many Chinese companies are in Singapore. I think in the numbers of in the thousands. The Chinese banks are in Singapore. The businesses use Singapore not just because of Singapore, but as a base to jump off into the whole region. And the more China does business through the Belt and Road with countries in the region, I think the more opportunities there will be to use Singapore for this. And set up here and use our business environment, use our reputation, use our connections with the region, use our financial services. And I think all these are opportunities for Singapore business people. The CCB, the China Construction Bank, has already set up an infrastructure financing unit in Singapore. And all these things can only be to the benefit of Singapore. As for the concerns of other countries, I would say the more it is seen that the Belt and Road is an open initiative. China will enhance its links with the other countries, but at the same time, other countries can do business with anybody in the world. It's not a bloc, it's not a closed group, it's an open, welcoming, free intensification of mutually beneficial linkages.
And you, of course, to cap it all, met with President Xi Jinping in Hamburg. And could you share with us a little bit about your conversation with him and what was uppermost on his mind and your observation of him?
Well, we had a good discussion. We talked about bilateral issues and really bilateral cooperation, all the things we can do together, the Chongqing project, the previous G2G projects we've had in Tianjin and in Suzhou. We talked about our free trade agreement and the upgrade, which is now being discussed between Singapore and China. We talk about opportunities for future cooperation, including cooperation on people, human resources, such as what we did with Zhao Leji when he came. We also talk about the region, about ASEAN, how ASEAN can cooperate with China and Singapore's role as chairman of ASEAN next year, and also as a coordinator for ASEAN-China relations. We talked about how things are in the South China Sea. And I congratulated the president on the 20th anniversary of Hui Gui in Hong Kong. And he explained to me how he saw Hong Kong and why he was satisfied with the progress which had been made. So I think we had a good discussion.
The Singaporean businessmen, they are patriots and they are ambassadors in our region. But they also happen to be the first ones to come under some pressure or tension whenever there is some tension on the diplomatic front with our neighbors. And not a few of them perhaps feel that Singapore could have been a little bit more, shall we say, circumspect in commenting about China in particular. What is your advice to the business community over here? How do they uphold the interest of Singapore and at the same time look after their own pockets at the same time?
Well, the first thing to realize is 有国才有家. If the country is not successful, then your passport is not worth very much. And for a country to be successful, you have to maintain good relations with other countries in the world, but also on the basis of mutual respect and cooperation and win-win. And sometimes it works, sometimes there are issues where it doesn't work so well, and we must be able to manage the issues which don't work so well in order that it not affect the wider relationship. The businessmen, I think, have to take a different approach, because a businessman, you are not in the business of deciding the direction of the country. You are just looking for opportunities for your company, and the more favorable the overall conditions are, well, the more opportunities you have. But if the government takes the perspective like a businessman does, I think that will be as unsuccessful as if the businessman takes the same perspective as the government needs to do. And I think we have to understand that. It's our job to make sure that we have stable relations with as many countries as possible, and within that framework, the businessmen have to understand what the government is trying to do, why are you doing it this way, so that if after dinner over the Mau Tai somebody asks you, you have a good answer. But your own business, well, you have to do what you need to do. And I think that is the way it has to work.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me, this has been a most fascinating conversation. And if you do, can you please join me in showing your appreciation? Thank you.